wonderful, wacky, crazy Wednesday because we're going to talk about stuff that we like. We like making money. We like success. We like when things are good. And right now, I'm going to tell you, everybody who's walking into my office is smiling and they're happy. And we have the man who's been with me for about 100 years now, Paul Kiker here. Are people having different attitudes with you too? Are they happier? Are they feeling a little better?
Oh yeah,
There's a
sense of relief and there's a sense of hope.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That justice will return,
mm-hmm.
wisdom will continue, will be pursued again,
mm-hmm.
and all of this theory will be tested in application before operating simply on theory.
Yes.
There's a big difference between theory and reality.
Listen to this. I'm so happy because growing up, city slicker, I got tickled last night. I went to a meeting and I wore a New York jacket, and it was funny because everybody knows I was a city slicker, but I've only been to New York one time in my life, and I would go back for the pizza. But I went to this meeting and I felt really weird walking into it because I knew almost everybody there, and then people said, that's that lady on TV, that's that lady on TV, yeah, that's that lady on TV. But it was funny because I said, you know, I don't even feel comfortable, Paul, traveling anywhere anymore. I don't want to go without my 20-mile radius. I mean, I'll come from Ball Ground to Ellijay. I'll go from Ellijay to Morganton. I'll do this little trip. But is it getting old, or is it getting settled, or is it because we've seen some crazy stuff going on in our world? So it changed. This old lady who used to jump in her car, I'd go anywhere. I'd run the Daytona 500. If you told me that I could be on the oval on Sunday, I'd have done it. Things change. Is it because of the last 4 years that we saw so much gloom and doom? It's been a little bit depressing, but it's getting over that. It's better.
Well, I think it has been a lot of doom and gloom that we've been through, but there's also just been one of the things I think we're going to discover when we get through all of this USAID and all this stuff that's taking place.
Oh my God, criminal.
There's already some of the rumors that are coming out around that they've been funneling money to use bot farms for basically propaganda. You know, and it's pretty amazing.
They got by with it though. Paul, they got by with it for how long?
Well, they've gotten away with it really going all the way back to the first Bush administration.
How much money's been spent? We're seeing the dollars now. Have you seen those big numbers?
Oh, the numbers are huge. So
billions.
Just in 2023.
Does it make you feel different about sending in your taxes?
I've got notes down here is what I'm looking at. So I couldn't remember that. I have had to keep up with so much information coming out over the past
I can't
2
even
weeks.
Imagine.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's been, what is it, 15 days?
USAID had $44 billion, which they said that they spent going all the way back to 2023. But here's the interesting thing.
$44 billion in a year and a half.
That was in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'd have to do the math on that, how many $400,000 houses that is. But, you know, one of the things that we're discovering is all of a sudden you've got Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders.
Having nervous breakdowns.
Elizabeth Warren.
Oh my God.
You know, all of these deep state, you know, actors that have been there for a while are just raising Cain over the fact that Elon Musk got in there, took some programmers.
Oh yeah.
Worked a 120-hour week.
Oh yeah. Sleeping on the couch.
And I think their arrogance, I don't believe that they believed that they would be caught this quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what comes out after this is all over, because now they're going to go look at the Department of Education. We've discovered with the new Treasury Secretary in there that the prior administrations going back to however long said that you are to approve every request that comes into the Treasury. Well, think about the number of transactions and think about just how lazy a lot of these people have been and corrupt. So if you're mandating everything is approved, it's like, okay, just don't ever check your credit card statement for fraud. Don't ever check your checking account for fraud. Just, you know, we'll pull it from you, the American taxpayer, and we'll spew it. What's also fascinating is some of these individuals have gotten through there and traced a lot of these funds that were coming through USAID going to the NGOs, which are non-government organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these
NGO is a lesson or a phrase that we're all going to be hearing a lot lately.
Yeah,
and none of us knew 2 weeks ago what it was.
No, I've known what it has been for a while, but the average person has not.
No.
Because that's been a way for the government to funnel and push their propaganda, but stay, non-government organizations are outside the limits of the Constitution, but if you have political individuals that are in there, well, guess what? All of this stuff is traced back to Bill Kristol, which Bill Kristol's been a major mouthpiece for the way far left. So I believe what we're finding is you can look at all this vitriol that's coming out.
It's been spewing some nastiness.
And I think these people are terrified because their secrets are going to come out of the closet.
Yeah.
So this is a dangerous time.
Yeah.
Because when you disclose fraud, I mean, I've been on boards before where we found individuals stealing money,
Wow.
From the nonprofits that they were supposed to be able to
Help.
serve people. One of them was on a booster club years ago.
I remember
We
that.
had to put checks and balances in place, and there was all kinds of vitriol that came out to begin with and attacking, those of us who had discovered this before the truth came out.
It's not a dirty little secret if you don't find my dirty little secret.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's character attacks that come after the people who are getting ready to lay the truth out. I mean,
Sure.
that's just what people do. So I have a lot of hope. I mean, it's not fair that we make the sacrifices that we make, to have to pay the taxes that we pay, to be used for propaganda that we would not approve, to be funneling organizations that do not have our best interest at heart. And I'm really curious with the programming capability and the computing power that Elon Musk has at his fingertips, if we'll discover that those individuals, like what Chuck Schumer has an $81 million net worth, right?
Do the math. Okay.
Yeah.
If you had taken his first 10 years' salary and invested for him, could he be worth $81 million from normal stock trading?
No.
Okay.
Not if you're properly diversified.
Okay.
No.
Do you know who's saying that Elon Musk is stupid? The bartender who was a bartender, and then now she is in Congress, and she's only been there, 6 years now? She's worth $29 million. Now, I'm sorry, I looked at what her salary is.
Yeah.
She drives a Tesla, which I think is hysterical because she thinks Elon is stupid. And she said it all day yesterday. She talked about how dumb he is. This man is like beyond brilliant, crazy smart. He's like crazy smart.
He's one of the most intelligent people that we've seen since Einstein.
Don't you wonder, that's what they compared him to.
Yeah.
Don't you wonder if somebody analyzed his brain? I think, this is just my stupid opinion, and I'm entitled to my stupid opinion, I think the reason he has so many children is I think he would like to produce more of the same.
I never thought about that.
Because
but I mean,
you think about that, because somewhere in somebody's life is the person who cures cancer,
Yeah.
the person who truly does go into outer space and change outer space. That person may not have been born yet.
Right.
But when Elon's having all these kids, I'm going, what are you thinking? And then I thought.
Well, and not only that, many of those kids have been aborted, those potential kids that have come in.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So when I watched, when she was sitting there last night saying how stupid Elon was, I thought, but you know who it worries me about? The average American voter has not gotten it right yet because she's been reelected.
Well, I mean,
Bernie Sanders was elected how many times?
Oh,
Elizabeth
gosh, I don't know.
Warren, how many times?
Yeah.
So even though we're going from purple, we're getting near red, there are still those people who believe that stuff. Yeah. They believe that stuff. The numbers don't lie. Elon's coming up with the truth.
Right.
Are they going to believe the truth?
Well, if there's not some major attack to try to cover this up, I mean, you got to think, this is upending their power structure.
Sure it is.
It's upending their power structure, and they're using their influence right now through the media to try to divide the nation. I mean, literally, they started a subreddit. Chris Martinson talks about it on his Signal Hour with Peak Prosperity, where they've started all this. They dox the programmers. So you got these young 22-year-old programmers that are brilliant, they've designed the programs to go through the USAID and all these, and they'll be starting on the Treasury to find everything that's in there. So now you've got a subreddit that's doxing them and calling for their execution and murder and death.
And there's some crazy person out there.
They've also, the far left through George Soros and some of these others are coming up there and trying to start these protests outside of USAID, and they're trying to foment violence is what they're trying to do. And I think these people really, unfortunately, to cover their secrets, what is it? Sun Tzu said an evil man will burn his country to the ground to cover his secrets. And they're claiming all these things that are ridiculous, but the problem is they put so much effort into dividing our country. And the problem is thinking is hard. So Jordan Peterson said this one time, and I've thought about it a lot. Thinking is hard, right? And most people don't really think hard about things because they don't have to, because they're automated in their jobs.
Impulse, do it over.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to have somebody else tell them what to do. And the majority of people want to be with the herd, right? So they feel safety in the herd. Because if you, look, I walk path less traveled a lot in my life, and that is a hard place. It's a hard path to walk.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a willingness to fail. And it's a hard thing to do. So, you've got this division where people aren't talking and communicating. And the thing I like about the administration that's in there is they're bringing this to light, right? I mean, this isn't a communist takeover or some oligarchic type power. This is let's make sure this money is being spent right for the American people. And what I'm amazed about is so far Trump's doing what he said he would do. He surrounded himself with good people. RFK got nominated yesterday. So, I mean, we want somebody in there that's skeptical. And RFK said many times, I'm not against vaccines, but I want to look at the evidence so that the people know, right? Sure. And you shouldn't be forced to have a vaccine if the risk of death is greater than zero, right? So just giving that freedom back to American people, because that's what we should always do. In my profession, you have to lay out, here's option A, here's option B. Here's the strengths of option A, here's the weaknesses of option A. Here's the strengths of option B, here's the weaknesses of option B. You might have a greater risk of catastrophe in option B than you do in option A, but this one may help you get to your goals a little bit quicker. Which one are you willing to take? Because everything in our life is a sacrifice, okay? So you have to sacrifice one thing to accept another, and you want to find that fine balance. So, when we lay this out there and say, okay, guys, here's the deal. Parents, these are vaccines that we think really need to be done. They have minimal side effects, and this is something that we as a collective society decide that we're going to mandate or choose. And these are ones that are a little risky. It'd be good to have, but you're not forced to have them. And then you disclose all of the profits that these corporations are making. You disclose all of the research that's behind it. And you get up there and you have people argue it. Because when you have both sides that are arguing it before an audience, the truth will arise, okay? But you can't lie. You can't obfuscate. You can't put things into the secret. So the Bible tells us, bring everything into the light. And that's what I hope that this administration continues to do.
I think he's using 100-watt light bulbs. I think he's using 100-watt light bulbs. He is showing us.
He is.
He is truly showing us what is happening. And I'd have people go, wow, it's better than I thought. He's really getting things done. I voted for him because I thought he could, but he's really doing it.
He's really doing it.
He's really doing it.
And that's one of the reasons I despised Trump so much in 2016, is I felt like we had an option, but he's like, yeah, we've got to get the Federal Reserve under control, because I know, look, the large majority of you that are experiencing this inflation out there, this is caused directly by the Federal Reserve, okay? Without going into the whole structure of the Federal Reserve, they have raised the barrier to entry for the average American. They have helped build moats around the monopolies within this country. And they have caused the asset bubble that we're having in real estate, okay, because more money chasing fewer goods. Our area has been magnified by migration from people trying to get away from these blue states and their ridiculous policies. But, they're one of the largest reasons that that people can't afford things right now. okay? More money chasing goods around is inflationary. Then you had the prior administration that's raising our national debt at $2 trillion a year, or whatever that number is going up. Well, we were going up about $1 trillion around every 100 days. For what? Okay? For all of this, propaganda, spending somebody else's money, lining their own pockets. That's human nature. Here's the thing I'll tell you. I always request that boards, nonprofits, churches, everybody have checks and balances in place, because it's not spoken out loud, but I bet nearly every person out there has heard of somebody stealing from a church, or stealing from a nonprofit, or stealing from something else. It's in our human nature. So if somebody's going to steal $10,000 or $20,000, right, because of certain circumstances, nobody wakes up and says, I want to do this. They get themselves in a financial bind. They're too embarrassed.
That's the way to do
They're
it.
too embarrassed to admit it to their heirs, their wife, their peers. So I'll just take a little bit. And then a little bit becomes more. And then it's like, hey, nobody's paying attention to this. I should have it. Forget about them. And it's that selfishness that takes over. So imagine what it's going to be if it's 10 million, 50 million, $100 million. Right? So
there's somebody in Fulton County who, they found huge amounts of cash at her house.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always wondered how that cash got there. I've just always wondered, because I know what her salary was. And I'm like, and she said, my daddy told me to save money. Okay, you must have done something really good to save as much cash was found in your house. So I'm a little skeptical of anybody who says, oh yeah, because I know, we know what inflation did to us. I know what I made last year, and I know what I have left. And it's because the cost of living went beyond what I was making. The cost of my income, or the ability to make the income, I did well, but there's nothing left, because by the time you pay the prices you're paying, and we're going to talk about that when we come back, but we want to say, this is just a little tribute that I want to do to a very, very special lady. Her name is Hazel Hansard. She went to be with Jesus on Sunday morning. It was very fitting that she go to be with Jesus on Sunday. For over 70 years, this lady played the piano in her church, Antioch Baptist Church in Forsyth County. You know her son-in-law, and you know her daughter, Miss Alicia and Travis Bridgman. They've been here with us on the program many times. They will be laying sweet Hazel to rest today. And we have some photos of her, we have some memories of her, but I have a song, and y'all are gonna laugh, because my children have been told for years and years and years, the song I want done as y'all walk into the funeral home and you lay me to rest is Earth's Loss is Heaven's Gain by the Singing Cooks. And so today, in honor of Miss Hazel, we're gonna play that. And in honor of Miss Hazel, we're also going to play, and in honor of Sweet Dawn, y'all please, please, please pray for Dawn. She had a nasty, nasty, nasty fall, and her leg might look like a bulldozer went through it with a switchblade on the end of it. So we need to be praying that Dawn can get her leg healed. Stitches and pain, and is really, really struggling. So please say a prayer for her. But today, remember the Bridgmans, because they will be laying this precious lady to rest today. And when I walked into the funeral home yesterday, that song was in my head going round and round and round, and I said, we've got to do this in honor of Miss Hazel today. So here we go with Earth's Loss is Heaven's Gain by the Singing Cooks.
Register here, the sign reads in the parlor. 2 songs were her request for me to sing. I stopped and told the family how I loved her, that I was sorry the death angel came. All the flowers that were sent, she didn't see them. What earth lost yesterday, heaven gained. Look what's happening in heaven. A cheer went up as she walked through the gate, and the change in her, what a difference. Why, she's as young and beautiful as a babe. Guess who's got his arms around her, and he just wiped the last tear from her eyes. He said, child, welcome home forever. Come and rest by the river of life. She never had earth's treasures. She didn't want them just to provide for a family, nothing more. She often talked about her home in heaven. She'd been so longing for. She said, when I leave this world, don't be crying, for to me it will be a stepping stone. And when I close my eyes to sleep for the last time, I'll step out of this world, I'll be home. Look what's happening in heaven. A cheer went up as she walked through the gate, and the change in her, what a difference. Why, she's as young and beautiful as a babe. Guess who's got his arms around her, and he just wiped the last tear from her eyes. He said, child, welcome home forever. Come and rest by the river of life. He said, child, welcome home forever. Come and rest by the river of life.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time. And delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
can help when you have a big feeling, like when you feel happy. Make sure to celebrate when you're happy and laugh it out. Love your mind.
See us anytime you can.
Whether you're swimming in the sea or splashing in the pool, making a masterpiece, or just making memories, writing a great American novel, or writing your term paper that's due tomorrow. Whatever you do in life, Farmers is here to protect it. For all your insurance needs, call Donald Curtis in Blue Ridge.
Well, you being a Gilmer Bobcat, you probably don't care, but Pickens County basketball, way to go.
Oh, I don't
Way
get
to
me
go.
wrong.
Are they awesome?
I'm a Gilmer Bobcat, bleed purple through and through, but I am so proud when anybody in the North Georgia area and Pickens County has done as good as they are. Undefeated.
Undefeated.
I mean, that tells you right there that you know they've got a new coach, has got the program exciting, and it shows what our local kids can do if they believe in themselves.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
I am ridiculously proud of Pickens County.
Yeah,
I'm
and
cheering them on.
Cheering them on. And one of the great things about having ETC is you get to see that live, and then you get to see it over and over again because we re-air stuff. And if you miss the game, if you didn't get to go, if something's happened in your life that you didn't make it home, you get to see it again. So I love, you know, a couple of years ago when the girls did so well, Keely was on that team, and now she's gone to college, already gotten married, moving along with life, and you can go back and you can watch those games. Pickens has done some pretty great basketball stuff, so yeah, very proud of them. So,
and it's so exciting, you know, it just really is because now you know, and when Pickens does good like that, it should bleed over into Gilmer and to Fannin. And of course, Fannon's had good football programs for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Gilmer's really coming along in football. And,
yeah.
And also, it's just good to see that there is hope and competition, and you know, it gets a little more challenging when they hit some of those Atlanta schools, just the way they can recruit. But
I don't think you're old enough to remember when Pickens girls won the whole thing.
No, I remember. I actually went to that game because I was living in Milledgeville at the time. If I remember correctly, that was late '90s, right?
It was a long time ago. No, there was one before that.
Maybe it was 90. Maybe it was back when I was in school.
This
it was
is
in
when,
the 90s, right?
let's see, I'm trying to think of the girls that were on at Dolores.
No, that was 74.
Yeah, I think 74.
Okay.
It was the year Dawn was born. It was 50,
I was born in
51
74.
years ago. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
No, I was thinking Fannin County. So I think Fannin County went down one girls basketball one.
Well, the Pickens County girls won it all, and there's a big statue up in the middle of town. There needs to be a bigger one. And then wouldn't it be cool if these boys went, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. See them at the Sweet 16, the Final
Bragging
8,
rights.
Final 4. We're going to be cheering them on.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So, okay, now we've been talking about the money situation. You can do the math. The Department of Education is going to run itself into the ground until the person that President Trump chose to run it runs herself out of a job, and that's what he wants her to do.
Yeah.
He wants to do away with that, send it back to the states and let the states do it.
Yes.
If your child was in the 8th grade and they were only one of the 33% of children reading at grade level and doing math at grade level, 33%. How do you feel about that?
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable, because we should be educating our kids to compete against the world, right? And you've got, and that's why money never goes beyond 3 generations, is because you've always got that money that one generation perceives as its shelter, and that it's going to protect them, and then they don't develop the skill sets to manage it. They don't have the emotional discipline to be able to hold on to it, and it's gone. So the same thing happens with nations, and we've become complacent with our kids. Our kids need to be in a position to compete.
We're 40th in the world.
40th in the world, but when the
40th
Department of
in the
Education
world.
was started, we were #1, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
What
so-
happened?
Yeah, so basically what happened, I mean, just a lot of the things that came through the system, and we're fortunate on our local level, because there's still a desire and I think the teachers care about the kids, right? But you also have to have some accountability, and you have to have some demanding of the teachers be excellent at what they do to prepare the kids. So I remember when Kel was in high school, there was a policy at the time, and I don't know if that's the case. It's like, well, you've got a project due on Friday. If you don't turn it in by Friday, as long as you turn it in by the end of the semester, you know, some teachers would give a 10-point decline. Some teachers would say you'd not make more than a 70. Well, if I was in high school and I had that option, I would have passed it off. So I remember sitting down with the teachers, and I'm like, look, I don't care what you do to everybody else. Okay, I don't care, but for my kid,
I can't imagine them doing that.
for my kid, if he doesn't turn his work in by Friday, I want you to give him a 0. I would rather him fail now in high school than I would him to develop that as a part of his character and habit.
Be a slacker and put it off.
Yeah, and then be a slacker, and then get into the workforce, and it's like, oh, my boss tells me I got to have this project done by Friday. Oh,
You'll
that's
give me
no
an
big
extension.
deal. I'm going to go play golf. I'm going to sleep late today.
Yeah.
And then you get fired,
Yeah.
right? Because I
Yeah.
told him, I said, look, I can tell you, if I've got, I mean, I know if it needs to be done by Friday or if it's done by Tuesday. Now, it may take them till Tuesday, but I'll ask them if they can get it done by Friday, but your last is on Tuesday.
Right.
If they don't do it, move on. I'm going to go find somebody that will.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you got customers that you have to answer to, and they deserve you doing your best to be able to get there. So when you're not requiring excellence out of our kids, and I remember Katie, you know, you go back.
You're doing the kids a disservice.
You're doing the kids a disservice, and kids need to be pushed, because we're naturally lazy, right? So you want to demand excellence out of them. And if B's is the best that they can ever do, great. Let that kid do the best and be B's. If there's a kid that they make 100 on every exam, challenge them more, right?
Right.
Let's help them learn to be excellent and be the best at what they can do.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot, because something happened the other day and I thought, did I handle that right? Okay, you have a kid who's working 2 jobs and going to college on the side. Okay, that's 3 jobs. With a 2-year-old. And the 2-year-old really wants to be with her mama more. And so I said, why don't you give up 1 job and work 4 days a week, do the college, and take care of her? And she said, Nanny, it takes more than that to make it work. And I thought, we have put our kids in a position, 2 jobs and college and a 2-year-old. And I said, why don't you just give up one of those? And she said, I'm not in a position to. And it made me sad, because the 2-year-old, you can never go back to being a 2-year-old. And the love and the support and the nurturing that only your mama can give you.
Yes.
Only your mama can give you that. And I felt bad. I thought, I wish I had tons of money and I could just say, I'll pay you to stay at home those 2 days, and then Sunday you work for free. You know, just something. Because there are a lot of kids out there, a lot of young families that are really struggling.
There's a lot of families that are really struggling. And there are several reasons for that. Number one, the cost of education should not be as high as it is.
Right.
Okay.
That was the other thing they brought up, what college costs today based on when you went to college. Is your son's twice as much as yours was?
More than twice.
Yeah.
Way more than twice.
Yeah.
I mean.
And who's getting rich? Who's getting rich?
Well, the institutions are lining their own
Do you know
pockets.
how much money they're sitting on?
Oh, huge.
Do you
amounts
know
of money.
how much money they're sitting on? I mean, they could. Elon needs to go there.
Well, that money is power.
Yeah.
That money is
Yeah.
power, is the
Yeah.
way they perceive it, because you can influence things with big balls of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, everybody's had somebody, I mean, there's lines of integrity and then there's work. You know, somebody comes and says, well, I'm going to pay you $100,000 in the next 2 weeks if you'll do this job for me. Well, you're going to go work for the person that'll pay you $100,000 in 2 weeks versus the person that's going to pay you $2,000 in 2 weeks,
Right.
assuming that you're not, you know, crossing your integrity.
Right.
So that's just an example, because most people have to do that the way it is. But the cost of living has become ridiculously high.
Mm-hmm.
The cost of housing around these institutions has become ridiculously high. And the cost of education has become ridiculously high. So, you know, our society has been set up to put such a burden on our younger individuals, and we're sending all this money overseas, where we could be supporting these students in ways, you know, to help them better their future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not a big believer that you just forgive all the college debt that's out there, and here's the reason why.
Oh, speaking of the Department of Education, $130 billion forgiven the last year that somebody was in office.
Yeah, and that's not right, because I'll tell you,
$130 billion. Yeah.
because during COVID, there were people that signed up for school to get student loans, and they'd drop out of school and they'd keep the student loans, you know, get the refund and spend the money somewhere else. There's ways that people have worked the system. When I went through school, I was like, how in the world are these people going on spring break and spending the money they were? Because I was waiting tables and skiing and doing school. I didn't have that much spare time. Come to find out, parents were paying for school, but they were taking student loans to go on vacation and do other things like that. So, you know, we shouldn't do that, but I am a believer that let's focus on our populace. Let's focus on and have programs to where you can provide some assistance to somebody like that. Hey, look, if you're a single mom and you're raising a kid and you've got good grades and you're doing your best that's in there, yeah, let's give a little assistance to somebody like that.
And she's racked up a bunch of debt.
Of course she has.
You know, and I said, and she said, well, I'm 2.5 years into it. I don't want to quit now.
She doesn't need to quit. She needs to finish.
Yeah, but it's hard.
But hopefully she's getting her degree in something that's a skill set that she can utilize.
We hope.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like I have conversations with people, they're like, well, my kid wants to go to.
She doesn't want to be what are those people that go to school and get an art degree and never get a job
Liberal
anywhere?
arts.
Yes. Never get a job anywhere. No, she doesn't. She likes hospitality. She likes people. She likes marketing. She's just a people person.
Yeah, so in that case, you know, like, if you don't know what you want to do, a degree in marketing and finance is great, because marketing's about communication. So
you know, you said finance. She actually has learned to like math doing this.
good for her.
She has, because she said she was always intimidated by it, but she said, I'm actually liking it.
You know, I wish I had known back when I was in college, like I like math, but I wish I'd known, I had somebody explain that it's a language. And if you learn to speak that language, then you can kind of be a math genius. But we use math all the time. But I mean, now we use programs, but you still need to learn the
basics.
math that's behind it.
Yeah.
And those are skill sets that can help her marketing, managing money. Because if you can communicate your story and your value, and you can manage money, you can do anything. You can be a CEO of a company, you can be a small business owner, you can be, you know, a sales rep. There's different things that you can do, and you don't even have to go into sales if you learn how to communicate. That helps you within the organizations that you're within.
I want to ask you a simple math question. Okay, and this was on my mind at 1 o'clock this morning. I was working with somebody and I was thinking about what they were going to do and what their closing cost was going to be. And I said, okay, he has X amount of cash over here that he could do this, and then he could do this, and he could cut his closing cost. And I said, you got to do the math. And it's like 1:15 in the morning, and I'm thinking about it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how do I explain that to them tomorrow? So I'm going to do that. But I always think about, well, if you're getting this loan and it's costing you $20,000 in closing costs.
Yeah.
$20,000 in
That's
closing
how much
costs.
closing costs are now?
Yeah, that ups the price of the property.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and it's this fee and this fee and this fee and this fee. It's so many fees. And I'm like, holy cow. So it's really, really weird that you don't just do the math, excuse me, on what you're paying for. You do the math on what does it cost you to get it? So if it costs you $20,000 to get it, then that really does change the language, doesn't it?
It really does. And I'm a big believer it has to work on paper, right? Because
Well, that's what happened to me. I wrote it down last
Okay.
night after he told me what he was doing, and I went, ooh, I don't know about this.
yeah,
You
so a
know?
lot of times I'll write scenario A, I put that on paper, scenario B, put that on paper, scenario C, and then I'll explain the knock-on effects after that. So if you go down this path, you know, this is overly simple, but I tell high school kids, it's been a while since I've gone and taught high school kids because my schedule's just been so tight. And I miss that, but I like to talk to them. I'm like, okay, when you get out and you start working, you know, you want to go buy the nicest car that you can. Well, you're better off to drive the vehicle that you have, strive for something better, set yourself this goal that I'm going to accumulate this much of an emergency fund, and then, you know, I'll either pay cash for a car or maybe I borrow a little bit less, and then I go on and explain the knock-on effects. You're going to have recessions, you're going to lose your job, forces outside your control, and if you build this foundation, by the time you're in your mid-30s, you're going to have freedoms that other kids don't. By the time you're in your 40s, you're going to have kind of escape velocity. By the time you're in your 50s, you're going to really reap the benefits of your prior sacrifices. But our society doesn't teach people that way. I remember when I got started in the financial services industry, I thought deeply about what they said, but they're like, hey, you need to drive a Mercedes. I'm like, you don't know how Ellijay works, right? Like,
Right.
You know.
People say, I'm not going to let him handle my money because look at what he's driving.
Yeah, you can drive a $100,000.
I know that theory.
You can drive a $100,000 truck, nobody bothers you, but if
Yeah.
it's got the Mercedes
Yeah.
on it, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. Our society, our area's changed, but that's the way it used to be.
Well, when we drove Mercedes, everybody assumed we were drug dealers.
Yeah.
It was hysterical. It was so funny. And I'm like, yeah, we're drug dealers. 2 of our kids are hooked on drugs, and we've been having to pay to get them in some kind of program. Yeah, we're drug dealing, all right.
That's not funny, but
It's not, but it was the truth.
So, you know, and not that there's anything wrong with those cars, but their whole intent was to get you in debt young so that you're driven by that debt to go produce. And I was like, I don't have to have debt drive me. I want to be the best.
I'll
that I
park
can
around
be.
the block so nobody knows I'm not
Yeah.
driving a Mercedes.
I have a client to this day that I've worked with, you know, gosh, now it'll be 25 years. And he still reminds me all the time. He's like, I got to ask you a question. I know you've told me and I believe you. He said, but when
Did you
and I-
really live in a
he said,
double wide?
When you and I first started working together, did you really live in a repo double wide that you bought off, you know, out of repo? I said, yes, sir, I did. He's like, I probably wouldn't have done business with you if I know that. He said, but I've gotten to know you and understand why you did it.
Sure.
And
yeah.
so, you know, and that goes back to the Bible tells us there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. Okay, and that's applicable in so many parts of our society and our lives. It may not necessarily ultimately lead immediately to death, but it puts you on that, you know, trajectory towards trouble in the future. And so that's the thing, and that's why I like about what's taking place in the Trump administration. Let's see how it works on paper. Let's lay out to the American people what's taking place. Let's let you see where your taxpayer dollars are going. And by the time this is over, if they're able to do this and we don't have some attempted coup or civil war or another assassination attempt that's successful, I don't think these that are screaming the loudest right now are going to be voted back in office before it's over.
No.
And they may be facing criminal charges.
Exactly. You know what I think is it's so funny? I see a picture of the Trump family, and they're amazing. And I love that behind him sits his mom and dad on his desk at the president in the Oval Office. And then I see the cabinet of the just previous administration, and I see the family, and I see Hunter with the joint, and I just have to laugh because we put up with that for 4 years, and we let them take us to the cleaners. And now we've got he's like George Jefferson. Have you ever watched the Jeffersons? George Jefferson had dry cleaners, and he was the best dry cleaner anywhere. Well, Trump is the best dry cleaner anywhere. He is going to clean it up.
Hey, I got to say.
He's going to clean it up.
I got to say, so far, like, you know, and y'all know, if you pay attention to me, I'm an equal opportunity basher of whoever's in charge because of the fact that you want to demand excellence. That's what it is. And so far, I haven't had anything that I could complain. I'm actually in shock of 2 things. Does the guy ever sleep? I know Elon.
Never.
I know Elon Musk doesn't.
No.
You know, and Tesla, Nikola Tesla didn't sleep very much either, and what he accomplished over his lifetime was absolutely unbelievable. But they're moving at a pace that I think is so tenacious, and they're coming at these disclosures that the deep state. And, you know, Bill Kristol's like, I'd rather have the deep state than, so, yeah, you said the quiet part out loud there, Bill Kristol.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
my gosh. So
Yeah.
bring all these things into the light, then the American people are going to have to process this. There's going to be a lot of people that are just going to be so shocked by what's taking place. But I tell people, you can go back to high school and the personalities, what people did out of insecurity and the hurts that they laid on other people because of their own insecurities. As adults, we've learned to mask that a little bit better. My belief is that if you're not setting your eyes on the Lord, if you don't accept Christ's gift and that forgiveness that's over you and understand just how much you're loved and you're forgiven for what you did wrong, but yeah, you're forgiven, but you can be better than this. So we spend our entire lives trying to be better, and if our failures get further and further apart, we're successful. Some of us can go years without having major failures. Some people can go weeks, right? As long as you're trying and they're getting further and further apart, that's pursuing excellence. And it gets easier. You just have to take that first step. So I lost my train of thought. That's the bad thing about live TV. I had somewhere I was going with that, and I completely lost it. I do that every now and then because I'll have 3 or 4 different places I can go. And I start to weave it in, and then I see like 10 pass, and I'm like, okay, which one was on? But the point being is, you know, the pace that they're moving, and I think the arrogance of those that had been in control, they didn't think that this was going to happen. I believe that they believed that they still had the money centers where they could influence the media. And, you know, and it's like RFK calls out.
But the media didn't learn anything. The Democrats didn't learn anything. If you watched the news yesterday.
I don't watch the news.
Well, it would make you you're just like, people, you're still employed and you're saying all these stupid things? I'm like, it blows my mind.
Holly.
But sponsors is what blows my mind. How could a sponsor the people who are spewing the lies they're spewing?
Well, for their own agenda, for their own.
Yeah.
A corporation has a responsibility to its shareholders, and this is why I don't believe that any corporation that's in the pharmaceutical or healthcare should be advertising on television, because it's their responsibility to spend their money in a way to maximize profits for the shareholders. So these major pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, Moderna, all these others, they do not deploy capital somewhere unless there's a potential return. So if they can buy influence over these media outlets to help cover up their secrets, to help promote their agenda, to help sell their products, that's what they're going to do. And the American people have to understand that that's the reality of the situation behind it, because their responsibility in running those companies is to maximize profitability for shareholders. Okay?
Speaking of pharmaceuticals, do you take any prescriptions at all? Because you're so healthy.
Well, unfortunately, I do. And I found out something. My doctor, anyway, long story short, Joe Rogan interviewed a guy by the name of Gary Brecka. And he talked about the MTFKR gene, MTHFKR, horrible acronym if you hear it online. But apparently 50% of the population has some histamines that are produced. So the doctor that I go to checked for my histamines. I had to supplement with vitamin B methylate. My blood pressure has been high since I was 18.
Wow.
That's been my thing.
You know why I think your blood pressure's high?
I run hot.
You were under a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, the
pressure really, I think, creates that, and then your body adjusts to it and wants to keep it that way because that's your norm, and that's not normal.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like I was telling, but here's the thing. So I had to take a blood pressure medication. That's the only medication that I've had to take, and that's been for about the past 10 years. But I'm 2 months now on the approaching these histamines, and when I take my blood pressure medication at night, like I'm out immediately. And my blood pressure's been running, like yesterday it was 121 over 80. Yeah. And for me, that's really good.
Mine's 120 over 80 every day of my life. It's weird, isn't it?
I figured it was going to be 140 over 90. but it's been lower. I donated blood the other day. It was 110/60. So it looks like I'm probably going to be able to come off of these because we're treating the source of the problem, not just the symptom. But guess what? I have to pay out of pocket for these doctors because they don't qualify for the health insurance.
Because it helps you. They don't,
it helps me.
Yeah, it's not making money under the table. But this morning, as I was getting ready, there was a commercial about a drug on TV. And I'm listening and I'm going, oh, what is it? And they start talking about it. And it says, oh, but you can't take this because if you're a dementia patient, it will cause you to die. If you're so-and-so. And it starts naming all these things. So it tells you, you need to take this and it'll really help you. Well, I opened some mail that normally I throw away as junk mail. I opened it and it said one of the drugs, I only take one drug every single day, but they had given me something to try. And I only took one of them. And I'm glad I only took one because it's been recalled. And they gave me all the reasons why. And I said, and it made me feel weird when I took it. And so I only took one of those pills, but that letter would have gone in the trash because it looked like junk mail. And so I was just going to put it in the trash. And I thought, I don't know, I'll open that. And I went, oh, you know, and I said, oh. So we're guinea pigs. They test drive us on everything. And then I lost so many friends who took the COVID shot.
Oh, yeah.
I lost so many friends who took the COVID shot.
Yeah.
I know people who have blood clots today and are struggling. I know people who can't go back to work. I know people who are still on oxygen today. We were tested to the max, and somebody got filthy rich on that. Will this come out, that man who got filthy rich, will there be any penalty for him at all?
I hope so. So there's a strategy Chris Martenson put forth that we hope, and who knows whether, you know, you can only fight so many battles, but Biden comes out and lays out all these ridiculous pardons. I mean, it's unprecedented that you go back to a date and say, now, I was wrong on one thing. I didn't pick up the fact that it said nonviolent crimes. But if you have death at the end of it, it may not necessarily be violent, but if you push this through. So one approach that the Trump administration could take is to basically, through executive order, require a panel to see if Biden was mentally fit enough and if he actually wrote it. Because based on the research that Chris did,
They don't think he did.
the president has to write it. It has to be his idea, and he has to sign it. Nobody else can make that decision for him. I don't believe in what we have seen that he had unfortunately
have
the
the
cognitive
faculties to do
ability
it.
to do
No,
the faculties to do it. So
no.
that may be one way to overcome it. I don't know, but either way, the one good thing is, if you accept the pardon, you have admitted guilt. If there is an investigation, you cannot plead the fifth because you're not going to be charged with whatever it is. So let's have an investigation into this. Let's put them under oath. Let's put them on the stand. Let's put all the information up there, and let's let the American people know what's going on behind the scene, because we're going to find where the money went.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now I know they have it. The question is, are they going to fully disclose this to the American people? And I
$15
hope that
million
Trump
a
is.
year. $15 million a year for him, a security detail.
Yeah.
$15 million a year.
And why
Are
do
you kidding me?
Why do you think that's the case? There's people that have done the research out there because their
That
kids
know that
were
he killed people.
and somebody was killed, and they want justice, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the thing that gives people hope right now, is that the thing that I was so frustrated with, there was rules for thee and not for, there were rules for me, but not for thee. Okay, so we were held to a standard that they were not held to, and I was watching people be above the law. Now, most people don't have the benefit that I do. I love to research, I love to read, I love what I do. I double check all of the sources that I pull just to verify. I know I've learned over the years who's trustworthy, who's not. It takes time to do that. It takes work to do that. It drives my wife crazy when I do that. But you know, so a lot of this stuff I've known about for some time that the average person just didn't know. And you know, we see the USAID has been funding a lot of these religious organizations to steer the direction that they were going in, and you've got the populace of the body of those religious organizations that's looking to their leaders, and if you can direct somebody who's at the helm, then by default you're going to pull the large majority of the people who are on that journey with you. So a lot of this is just ridiculously nefarious for globalization. George Soros is a globalist. And globalization means we want a one world government. We don't want the U.S. in power. We don't want freedom of speech. We want rules for you, but not for me. And if we don't break that, if Trump administration is not successful in breaking that
It's got to.
and laying it before the American people, then our next generations will unfortunately have a lot harder times than what we have.
We've only got 3 minutes left. Let's talk about your farm.
You're kidding me.
No, let's talk about your farm and eggs, because I showed, and I think I have some pictures of the eggs that I cooked from the Two Little Hands farm. They have blueberries, they have eggs, and what are you going to produce at your farm? What is your goal to produce there?
So my goal is, one, I love messing with chickens, and I eat a lot of eggs, especially now that I'm on the carnivore. So,
and those are my homemade eggs from Ball Ground, Georgia, from the Two Little Hands farm.
So I've had 18 kid goats that have been born this winter. So goats will be something that I'll sell for meat for people that like to eat goats. And I'm also going to use them to kind of eat the underbrush and help maintain the property. Right now I've got 45 hens. And a couple of roosters. I'd like to build that up to about 70 just because I like dealing with them. And it takes about that many for how many eggs we eat, the kids eat, my staff eats. And then Holly's got some teacher friends that she hands them to. And then I want some cattle. So my goal is the year after next to finish the fencing, have the cattle's in. I've got the pastures done so that we can slaughter our own for our own meat. So I know what it ate, I know how it was treated, and I have that, and then a couple that we'll sell to friends. So I want it to be a working homestead so that we are closer to the source of our food.
There you go.
That's my whole goal. And I love the garden.
That's what I love about the Little Hands, because they are learning the food chain from the beginning to the end. And to know what that chicken ate, and to know why that egg is so yellow and so golden and so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because you know what you're feeding. And we don't know. I mean, walk in the grocery store and pick up my favorite brand of bacon. It came from China. You're going, are you kidding me? So I put it back and I buy something else. It's so different how we're looking now, because our health is bad. We have people dying of crazy things, people getting cancer too young. I know people who are fitness nuts who, within a 6-week diagnosis of cancer, die because our food content. And so I think RFK is our key to getting us back where we need to be. My grandparents produced everything they ate. Your grandparents probably produced everything they ate. Maybe we ought to get back to doing that.
And I think we should, and it also teaches people about the cycle of life, right? For us to live, an animal has to die. And if you have to go through the pain of slaughtering a pet so that you can live, right? Or working that soil, and how important it is to have good soil. Because everything in our lives in society, here's where we should be. This is the ideal, and we swing way beyond, right? So if I bring my wife doesn't like me to bring flowers. She doesn't want me to spend money on it. But once a year or so I get her flowers, that's good. But if I brought her flowers every day, she'd be really upset about how much money. So that's way over here. If I never got her flowers, we're way over here. So finding that
medium
sweet spot is where we need to be. So what's happened is in our food and pharmaceuticals, greedy people have taken over. It's shifted for profit at the expense of our health. And behind that too is there is a group of people that are globalists that think that the population is too high.
Kill them.
So they hope that we reduce the population, and they want to line their pockets. So if RFK can bring us back to here, I don't in any way, I had the opportunity to hear him speak in person. I know people who know him. Hopefully I'll get a chance to shake his hand at some point in the future, because I've got some people that are close enough to him. But I don't think he's not going to take it over here, right? The American people want it to be right. There are pharmaceuticals that can help us.
Right. And we need their help.
But at the same time, we need to treat the source of the problem, and physicians should be compensated for trying to, I would rather waste some money trying to treat the source than just to treat the symptom.
That's it. That's it. Well, today's gone. It's just gone. There's nothing we can do.
Went fast.
It went fast. Once again, thank you for joining us. Remember, ETC is local. It's you, your family, the things that matter to you. Pick up the phone and call me at 404-375-0590, and let's tell your story. I'll see you again soon.